Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista, here on YouTube, and today is Monday, October 23rd. So you will have to bear with me because I was 8 minutes into this video and realized the microphone wasn't working. Yeah, and it looks like it's so bizarre because the green dot is in the corner, but I don't even have it turned on. I'm just going to record it today without the microphone, and then I will charge the microphone. So I have the phone a little bit closer to me than I normally would. Okay, questions. Bill is texting me because every time I add something to my Amazon wish list, he gets an email. And I think that's because I don't know why he gets an email, but he does. And he texted me and said, shoes? I put a pair of tennis shoes on my wish list. And he was like, keep building that list because it gives him ideas for Christmas. So that was funny. So I had a good week. I had a good weekend. I hope you guys all did as well. Questions. I have 3 questions this time. So my friend Sandra, she had put a question in there that said, the Q-snap, when she tightens it, it distorts the fabric, like it makes bigger holes. At least that's how I interpreted her question. And she said, do you have any advice? The advice I actually gave her, besides loosening up the clamps, was if you make your fabric much bigger than you actually need, if the outsides are distorted, not a big deal, because you're going to be cutting that off or wrapping it around something anyway. So just keep that in mind. But obviously the most basic thing would be to loosen the clamps, right? Okay. When I cleaned out my craft closet, my office, and all of that, someone asked, did I keep any of my whips that I had? Nope. Sure didn't. I either gave it away or I threw it away. And no shame in my game with that, because if something's not bringing me joy, I am not worried about throwing it away. I'm okay with it, because in our lives, we do so much out of obligation, right? Job, all of that, that when it comes to my crafts, stitching or diamond painting, I need to have joy with it, or why am I doing it, right? Okay, and the last question, someone had watched my video. I had done a video a while ago, how I converted DMC colors to sulky, because DMC has a line of what, like 500 and some odd colors. Sulky doesn't even have a fraction of that. So the video, the purpose was just to show how I converted colors. And I always recommend, if you have a piece that has a lot of colors, I would not recommend converting it to sulky. It's going to be difficult. At least that's what I have found. And their question was, is sulky and DMC the same weight? No, it is not. So sulky 12 weight thread is the thread that we use for stitching. One strand of sulky, because it comes off the spool in one strand is the equivalent of 1.5 strands of DMC. So I particularly like to use sulky on 18 count perforated paper because it gives the look of almost 2 strands of DMC. It gives very good coverage. So yeah, and I wrote them that answer when they asked me that question. Okay, movies and TV. I did watch some more of Dance Moms. Terry and I were talking about it. We had both lost interest in it, and she kept watching and she started to enjoy it a little bit again. So I'll probably watch here and there, especially when I'm diamond painting and I don't really have to pay attention to it per se. There are 8 seasons of it. Just like with most shows, the earlier seasons were so much better, and especially the first season where I had never watched it before and didn't know what was going to happen. And OMG, the first season was so good. I absolutely loved it. And then on Netflix, so I like to watch from time to time comedians. Tom Segura is a comedian on there. Now, I have to say that some of his material to me, inappropriate, like borderline, like, ooh, you're really pushing the envelope here. But I can look past that because you choose to be offended by something, right? You can click off, you can not watch, you can do whatever. Most of his stuff I like, and it's appropriate and it's applicable to everyday life, and it's funny because he is a husband and a father, so he has just everyday normal problems like we do. And he has a few specials on Netflix, so that's what I've been watching. And then I've also been watching Grey's Anatomy season 2. Season 2, in my opinion, is the best season of the show. It's still, again, one of those early seasons. Everyone from the original cast is still on the show. And it's just my favorite season. I have rewatched it so many times. And it's almost like when I need comfort. I remember watching it when I was going through cancer treatment. I just love that season so much. So I was watching that. And then if you guys have ever heard of the Tubi app, so Tubi, it is an app that you can get, like I have it on my iPad, I have it on my Roku on the TV. It is a free app and everything on there to watch is free, but you will see ads. However, they have some older movies that you would have to rent on Amazon. And so the ones that I watched this week, I watched Bed of Roses with Christian Slater and Mary Stuart Masterson. Love that movie. It's like a romance. And normally those aren't my kind of movies. I really like this one because it's also about, you know me, in the underdog movies too. So Mary Stuart Masterson's character is sort of an underdog, a struggler in there. And it's such a good movie. It's a feel-good movie. Like sometimes you need to watch something like that. And then Saturday night, I stitched for a bit and they have A Perfect Murder on there, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time with Gwyneth Paltrow and Michael Douglas. Husband and wife, she's having an affair. You find out what happens. It's so good. And then I was on Facebook and I forget what day I was on. It was Thursday or Friday. And someone had recommended the movie Sorry Charlie on Tubi. I loved it. Again, like a suspense thriller with some twists in there. And it's only an hour and 15 minutes. So it's not too terrible of a time investment. And highly recommend, very entertaining. Okay, books. I finished the book by Lane Fargo that I was reading called They Never Learn. Loved it. Gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. It was, again, a suspense domestic thriller, and it had some twists and turns in it too. Highly recommend. They have another book out called Temper, which I have the sample on my Kindle, so I might peruse that next to read. Okay. No gifts this week. No purchases except, I'll show you. So I went to McDonald's yesterday before Charlize's soccer game, and I forgot that they have like the pumpkin baskets for Happy Meal. And that's usually what I get when I go to McDonald's, at least when I'm kind of in a hurry. And I got one. Oh my God. And it's my new candy dish now. Okay, I'm obsessed with this candy. These are the orange flavored mints from Lifesavers. It reminds me of an orange Tic Tac. It's not too heavy of a candy. Love it. So I bought like a big bag at the grocery store yesterday. And you know I love purple, so I was so glad to get this. So that's my new candy jar. All right, finishes and whips. Like I said, I did do diamond painting and stitching. I will take you over to see the diamond painting, but first we're going to talk about the stitching. So I worked on this week, and let me get it. Primrose Cottage Stitches, Autumn Alphabet. And I actually think my next piece I'm going to stitch, because I'm going to be done this one pretty soon. It's a small stitch. I think I'm going to stitch like their fall one that they have. Let me see. It is this one. And I have the finishing kit for it and the thread pack. I love fall most of all. I think that's the one I'm going to stitch next. I really love that one. Yeah, so you can see, I have the finishing pack and the thread pack that I got from them. And then it's going to probably be Christmas stitching after that. But here is the autumn alphabet. Now what's nice is I already have the board I want to finish this on, but I don't have anything else. I don't have like what ribbon, but I have ribbon and fabric and all that. So I'm just going to use what I have here. I am stitching mine on amazing gray perforated paper. And when I say that I questioned my choice, I did. When I pulled out the paper, I was like, I don't know if all the thread's going to show up on it, especially the blue color, which is the alphabet. Well, once I started stitching, I absolutely loved it. And I have to say, I don't know about you, but for me, the hardest part is actually starting a cross stitch project, because I feel like when you have some stitching done on it, the motivation to keep going to finish it is there. For me, I had stitched one letter. I had stitched the N because I started in the middle. And I was like, I have to get something done on this because I had not stitched for a few days and it wasn't calling to me. So I did the N, I forget what day it was. And then the next day I did like 2 more letters and I just kept building on there. And then Friday and Saturday, I did a lot. And I absolutely love it. So I got done quite a bit this week. I got done all of the alphabet and then the little birds. So now, next is the border. And I don't know where I want to start with the border. I might start off of the H and the I. I'm looking at the pattern. There's like 2 leaves and then it will lead you all the way around. I think I want to do the pumpkins last. The pumpkins are over here on this side. 2 pumpkins and like a Quaker thingy. But yeah, I am loving this so very much. It looks really good on the amazing gray paper. And you know, it's unfortunate that there aren't too many neutral colors for the paper that Mill Hill makes. You know, it's like they have a lot of light colors, white, ecru, buttercream. They have some light blue colors, but like the only really neutral is this one. So, but yeah, love it so much. Love it so very much. I'm enjoying it immensely. And I want to show you the back because this was a really quick way to find the center of the paper. You see how I drew the 2 lines? Now this is the back of it. I just lined up, I think I actually used a piece of paper. I lined up a piece of paper, corner to corner, drew a line, corner to corner, drew a line. There's the center. I mean, you could measure, but that's a really easy way to do it. So, just FYI. Okay, so I will continue working on that this week. And then diamond painting. So let's flip you around and take you over there because boy have I gotten done a lot. And I have ordered 2 tools for diamond painting, which I will show you when they come in. I will admit I broke down and I ordered the long mesh ruler. I decided I wanted to try it. And then I ordered something from Bella de Art Nicole that will hold your diamond painting to your table. So when that comes in, but isn't it turning out so gorgeous? So I got done completely this row and have started on this row. And I decided, because when I unrolled this, so much of the release paper was crinkled up and wrinkled, it was not going to stay. So I just peeled it all off and I'm just going to leave it off until I'm done. And before anyone asks me a question about, am I afraid of the canvas losing its stickiness? It will not. I had a diamond painting. I had taken a long hiatus from diamond painting, actually. I had a diamond painting out on my drafting table when I did diamond painting in the dining room. It sat for months with no cover on it and it didn't lose its stickiness. But I love this one so very much. And like I said, I feel like I'm in the home stretch. Like, that's all I have left to do right there. So, love it, love it, love it. And my next one is definitely going to be Poinsettia Pixie by Hannah Lynn. Okay, let's turn you around. I'm still loving the credenza. What a wonderful piece of equipment that is. All right. Oh, and speaking of diamond painting, so a couple of you had suggested, like, why doesn't Bill make my frames, the magnetic frames? Good question. So when we had done the last frame, that was the last frame that I bought. We talked about it, and he is going to make the one for that one. I already have the paint. All I'll need to buy is the hanger for it. We have a bunch of eyelets. I have all the magnets. And this past weekend, Bill went to Harbor Freight and he bought a drill press. Yes. So that was a good little investment for him, because now he'll just be able to go do to make the holes for the magnets. And we're just going to go to Home Depot and he's going to make the frames out of trim, just wood trim. And I know he can do it. He can do it. So that's going to be a project that we'll be doing here probably in the next couple weeks. I mean, I figure maybe, depending on work-wise and how much I can get done diamond painting, 2 weeks maybe to finish that, hopefully. And then we'll get to make the frame. Okay. So, favorite product of the week, I guess. So I have my Starbucks reusable cup that I use every single day. And I drink like tea out of it. I will drink, lemonade. I will drink all kinds of things out of it. And if you use a reusable straw, it will get gunked up. And I took a Q-tip and like wrapped it on the inside. Disgusting what came out. And I went, okay, how do I clean a straw? Well, when I looked online, it shows like this pipe cleaner thing. And I went on Amazon and I was like, okay. But then I thought to myself, I bought reusable straws like years ago, and I thought it came with a cleaner. It did. So I looked in our silverware drawer, and I was so thankful that I kept this. And Bill was like, I'm so surprised you kept that and didn't throw it away. Me too, because when I clean out like drawers and things like that, I will throw all kinds of stuff away. This was a godsend. I put a little bit of like Dawn dish liquid in the straw, flip the straw around the other way. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. It worked and it cleaned the straw very, very well. All right. So I decided that I want to do a giveaway for you guys again. I will have the Google form down below. All you have to do is fill out your information like before. What am I giving away? I'm giving away a kit that Diamond Art Club gave me as a sneak peek that I've realized I'm not going to do. It is Hannah Lynn's Spooky Doll. Yes. Now, this is round diamonds. You will not get the toolkit. The toolkit is out of it. Remember, I took out the toolkit, unboxed it, but you will get the canvas and the diamonds. And I'm going to include this in there I'm just going to leave this in the plastic. I don't even care. So if you would like to be entered, you don't have to comment down below. Just go ahead and fill out the form, the Google form, and I will pick somebody next week. And I will mail this to you. Okay. So I thought we would have a little chat to end the video about comfort stitching. So I subscribe to Colorado Cross Stitcher newsletter, and they sent around this newsletter last Wednesday and talked about comfort stitching. And the checklist, they have a top 10 list, and I wanted to read it to you because I really loved it. I almost was going to do a stitch with me and talk about this, but I thought, nah, I can just incorporate it in my weekly video. So, what works best for you when thinking about comfort stitching? Leave your ideas down below. But here are some ideas. Here are 11 ideas that it's Sherry. Sherry is Colorado Cross Stitcher. That she had an idea of. And I will tell you when I read it, I'm going to tell you the pattern that I immediately thought of when I first read this email. So, number 1, a pattern from way back when. The nostalgia brings comfort. And she suggested shepherd's bush. And I'm with her on that, because there was a time when I was still single and I lived in my apartment. I was obsessed with the shepherd's bush, those sheep kits. I literally stitched like 15 of them. I was gangbusters. I had so many and had so many on my wall and stuff. Love, love, love. Shepherd's bush uses silk and they hand draw the patterns. Like, it definitely nostalgia. Now, also nostalgia for me was Lizzie Kate and Little House Needleworks, because back in the day, I loved Little House Needleworks and Country Cottage Needleworks, and that's like all I stitched. And Lizzie Kate too. Lizzie Kate really takes me back to like 15 years ago of stitching. All right, number 2, a pattern with simple motifs and block colors, which is easy and quick to stitch and you don't have to concentrate too much. Absolutely, that surely is comfort stitching. She suggested Prairie Schooler, and that's brilliant. And also, I would have to throw Primrose Cottage Stitches into that ring, because just like, I mean, the last 2 pieces I stitched from them, Salem Sisters and their the Autumn Quaker Sampler, I think it's called Autumn Sampler, was all one color and very easy to follow. Because their patterns, I love Primrose Cottage Stitches patterns so much. And I'm going to show you a corner of the pattern so you can see what I'm talking about. Big symbols, color patterns, very easy to follow. I don't have, well, I make a copy of it, but I absolutely love their patterns. There is nothing worse, in my opinion, than getting a pattern, buying it online when you haven't seen it, and you get it and the symbols are like microscopic. I hate that. I hate it so much. But she had said Prairie Schooler, absolutely. Because many of Prairie Schoolers, especially the Halloween ones, are literally done in black and orange or black and brown or something. Yes, absolutely. All right, number 3, a pattern with unexpected things happening. It keeps your mind going. And she suggested Barbara Anna Designs. Yes, that is a good idea. I couldn't really think of anything for that one. Like a designer that, a pattern with unexpected things happening. Maybe Plum Street Samplers, maybe? Because she'll have stuff that's over 1 sometimes in her patterns. All right, number 4, a pattern with 1 color. No changing the threads, just stitching. And she said, like many of Modern Folk Embroidery's patterns. Absolutely. But again, I can say Primrose Cottage Stitches. They have a couple like that. Prairie Schooler too, a lot where, when I forget the one that I stitched, and I stitched it on 18 count perforated paper with 1 strand of DMC, all black and orange. Yeah, having 1 color is nice because you're not switching out colors, you're just having to follow the pattern. So for sure, that is comfort. Number 5, a pattern with Quaker designs. And she says, use a magnetic board and move the bar 1 line at a time. When you're done, you'll have a beautiful motif. And she suggested Quaker Christmas too. There are a lot of Quaker patterns out there. Log Dog Samplers. Yeah, Modern Folk Embroidery has huge sales that they did. And actually, Primrose Cottage Stitches is coming out with a Christmas Quaker, small, sort of like the Autumn Sampler. Can't wait, because I absolutely am going to do that one. And it looks like it was done in red, which means I'll be able to stitch it on white perforated paper, which, when I say that the hardest part of when I pick a pattern is figuring out what color paper I'm going to stitch it on, because paper is my go-to now. That's the hardest part. Usually the threads are already done. And yeah, I like when I can stitch something on white, because then the finishing options are limitless too, because you can just go crazy, right? All right, number 6, a really complicated pattern. It keeps your mind completely focused on the stitching. And she suggested Teresa Kogut, one of her big samplers, or GGR samplers. I would even go so far as to say a Mirabilia or a Bella Filipina, like the beautiful ladies. I remember when because man, there was a day, like again, 15, 20 years ago, where I literally would stitch mirabilia after mirabilia after mirabilia. And when I think back to that time, now that seems so far out of the realm of what I want to do stitching wise, but I enjoyed it so much at that time. I would literally stitch a 10 by 10 square, move on to the next square. That's how I kept track of it, because if you just start counting, but the patterns are complicated. There's no doubt. Like, I feel like, especially the big mirabilias, they can be very complicated with beads, with Cranic or Petite Treasure Braid. I mean, the first pattern I ever stitched when I got back into stitching was Mirabilia's Fairy Moon. And that piece is so big. Her skirt is like all done in creams and beiges and all that. And I wasn't confident at that time in stitching with beads, so I converted all the beads to Petite Treasure Braid. My dad actually bought that piece from me, and it hangs in his hallway in his house. So at some point, I will get that back. I mean, the fact that it was my first piece that I ever stitched, and I remember I was separated from my first husband when I was stitching it, and this is such a long time ago. I separated from my first husband. I was 28 years old. I didn't have a place to live, so I moved back in with her for 6 months. I slept on her sofa bed, and the spare bedroom that used to be my brother's bedroom was my office, because remember, I worked at home then, so I needed somewhere to work versus somewhere to sleep. I could have slept anywhere. And just what a tumultuous time that was. And stitching was the one thing, even then, that brought me comfort, that brought me peace. Diamond painting wasn't even a thought in my head, obviously. 22 years ago, this was now, that I stitched Fairy Moon. And I stitched it on hand-dyed fabric. I mean, I really just ran with it for my first big piece. All right, number 7, a small. Yes, quick to stitch and nice to feel like you accomplished something, like Heart in Hand or Scattered Seed Samplers. Heart in Hand is hands down probably my favorite small designer as far as their patterns, besides Primrose Cottage Stitches. Heart in Hand has tons of wonderful patterns, and I have stitched many of them. If you need something, a quick finish, something really small, absolutely. And Lizzie Kate too. She has a ton of small patterns that would fit that bill. All right, number 8, a new start. Keeps your focus on all things new and fun and colorful. Yes, a new start is always nice. I mean, any designer could fit in that category. Okay, and number 9, which doesn't apply to me per se, but an old whip. Sometimes you feel more accomplished when you pick up an older work and soon remember what you loved about it. I remember someone messaged me, and I want to say this was a couple months ago. Excuse me. They said that I actually inspired them to pick up cross stitching again, and they just finished a project they had started in 1989. Woo! In 1989, I was in 9th grade. So that was a while ago. But isn't that great that that person was able to come back to cross stitching? Number 10, something for the upcoming season. It helps you to look ahead to hopefully brighter days coming soon, like Thanksgiving and Christmas or winter right around the corner. And you know, I find myself, I am a seasonal stitcher. I like to stitch stuff that fits. So now it's fall and Halloween, then it's Christmas, then it's winter, then it's spring, Easter, summer stitching. Could be anything. I mean, there are some summer patterns, but I have been so drawn to Primrose Cottage Stitches for a long while now, and they release stuff seasonally. So definitely drawn to them. And then bonus number 11, something in a completely different style or color palette than your normal stitching. Switch things up. Now, Terry Lee Crafts, my friend Terry, if you have been watching her channel for the past couple weeks, she is stitching a Heaven and Earth Designs Hannah Lynn. She showed it in her video today, and it's gorgeous. So she stitched the black first, and then she is filling in the color. and she filled in some color. And if I was ever going to stitch a Heaven and Earth Designs, it would be a Hannah Lynn. I actually was so very tempted, and I didn't, because she stitches hers on 16 count easy guide where it's already gridded. I would definitely go that route if I was going to stitch on a Hade, Heaven and Earth Designs. It's just easier to say Hade. But hers is gorgeous, but I didn't pull the trigger because I thought I will never start that. But I like Heaven and Earth Designs has the Butterflies of Hope, which I really love that piece because it symbolizes breast cancer. And then they have Alice from Alice in Wonderland. I love both of those. And I actually have the Alice pattern. I bought it long time ago. But I would probably never finish it. And I realized that about myself for sure. But okay, that was it. So I hope you guys loved those answers. And just to get the thoughts in your head about what you would do as far as comfort stitching, or what comfort stitching means to you. Okay, so I started reading a new book yesterday, and it is a devotional book. So I love Charles Stanley from In Touch Ministries. He has since passed away, but whoever is running his ministry, still they do a podcast. All of his sermons, or a lot of his sermons, are on YouTube, and I love his books. And he just actually came out with a new book, and I have it on my wish list for Amazon, a devotional book. But this one was on Kindle Unlimited, and I was so grateful. It is called God's Purpose for Your Life. And I wanted to read you today's, because some days I'll admit, I mean, I love the Bible. I love how much it, reading the Bible and all of that has changed my thinking and how I live my life since December of last year. But some days it is still hard for me to pick up the Bible and devote the time to read. But to read one page, this, and then think on it all day or jot down some notes, that I can do. So even though the book starts with January, I just went right to today, because that's when yesterday I started reading it. I just went right to yesterday's because there's no year on it. It's just the month and the day. So you can consistently just keep reading this book as the years go by. But I wanted to read you today's. So it is called Wait in Stillness. Cease striving and know that I am God. And that is from Psalm 46:10. Today, the pressure to move forward may be overwhelming, but if God has not spoken to you, stay where you are. It is inherently dangerous to act in haste. You may feel tempted to reason everything out in your mind and figure out all the unknowns, as if it depends on you to engineer a solution. But the Lord does not need your assistance. In fact, the adage, God helps those who help themselves, is not biblical. Instead, what Scripture says is trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. And that's Proverbs 3:5-6. God sets your course, so stop wrestling with him for control. Instead, as today's verse instructs, cease striving and trust his all-powerful, all-knowing, unconditionally loving plan. The Father knows that you cannot help yourself in this situation. He realizes the pressure you feel and how important all of this is to you. But as long as you're trying to orchestrate a solution, you will miss what he is doing. So be still and quiet in his presence. Lay down your efforts and simply trust him. Not only will he direct your path, but he will do so in ways beyond what you can imagine. And I am guilty of this as well. This one hit so hard for me because I feel like there are many times in our lives where we try to manipulate the circumstances to fit what we want it to be. And boy, is that the wrong way to go about it. It really is. Sometimes it's hard not to, but I have even counseled Bill in that regard, where he is trying to do something. And I said, don't try to manipulate the circumstances. Like, follow along with what you're thinking. Do you know what I mean? But don't try to orchestrate all these little pieces to fall into what you want, because by personal experience, this has backfired so many times. Yeah, it has backfired so many times. But I absolutely love that, because I feel like we're always striving to do all these things, right? Diamond painting, cross stitch, weight loss, having the best hair, the best makeup. You know, you're striving to do all of these things, plus be a good wife, a good worker. It can get very, very overwhelming. So I feel like if we sit and be still, which is not easy for our society today, pray about what's going on, and then stop and listen to what God says. Stop and listen, wait and listen. And I actually gave that little piece of advice to a friend a couple weeks ago. And I said, pray about it and then wait. Wait for God to speak to you. And, you know, it's not always easy to hear him, but I feel like sometimes we need to slow down and then you can hear him. But I love that, because I feel like we're always like going. And we just need to sometimes stop and wait and be still. Okay. Love that book though. God's Purpose for Your Life by Charles Stanley. And Charles Stanley's voice, I like his voice too. Like, that's really important for someone that's going to be ministering to you, right? If you're going to listen. Absolutely. He has a podcast, the YouTube channel. Love, love, love. But okay, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys all have a fantastic week. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.